Earlier, Dick Pryor spoke with eCapitol News Director Sean Ashley about the top stories this week at the Capitol.
Sean, history was made on Thursday when the Senate voted to override one of Governor Mary Fallon's vetoes. The first time that's ever happened.
You're exactly right. It's the first time it's ever happened. I meant to look back and see how many bills she's vetoed. She has vetoed a number in each legislative session, as well as this year. And this is the first time she's been overridden. In this case, it involved House Bill 2641, which was a gun-related measure that required county sheriffs to whom information and an application was submitted to turn that information around within a limited period of time. When the governor vetoed the bill a little over a week ago, she said really it regulated federal agencies, the ATF in particular, with whom the sheriffs had to communicate to get the information they needed to respond to the applications. In the Senate on Thursday, there was no debate on the measure to override the veto, and it passed 39-0. It was considered last week by the House, and while there was some discussion about whether the language could be put in another bill and then sent to the governor, the author of the bill, Representative Mike Turner, said that appeared not to be the case, and he moved forward with the override. Keep in mind this was one of the 15 bills that the governor vetoed in the last week of April, when she said that the House in particular was not tackling the big issues, that these were all minor issues, and she did it as a signal for them to get on with the big issues and get work done.
It appears the Department of Corrections will get a supplemental appropriation.
Well, it appears that they will. It still has to go through the House of Representatives. It was approved this week by the Senate. It provides $13 million, primarily so they can fund contract beds and county jail beds. It does have to pass through the House. Unlike the Senate Appropriations and Budget Joint Committee, where it was considered initially, there was much more debate in the House side of that committee, and so it will probably be discussed at length before the House passes it this next week.
What's the status of the budget talks?
The budget talks, as we've said over and over again, are ongoing. The fact, however, that we are looking at a supplemental for the Department of Corrections is a good sign. It means progress is being made and they're deciding how certain funds will be spent. But if I'm sitting here next week and we don't have a budget agreement, it looks like we may be in for a very busy end of May.
And penalties have been increased for human trafficking.
Yes, this has been a rather interesting issue that's moved quietly under the radar this legislative session. Penalties for human trafficking will now be subject to the 85% rule, which means you cannot get out of prison if you're convicted for one of these offenses until you've served at least 85% of that sentence. Additionally, the definition of a victim was modified somewhat, and those who perpetrate sex trafficking, human trafficking, will have to register as a sex offender. This was a big issue for Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb when he was a member of the legislature, and other legislators have taken up this issue and worked to make some of our anti-human trafficking laws some of the stronger in the country.
eCapitol News Director Sean Ashley, thank you.
You're very welcome.